It was a Christmas address to the Roman Curia, as tradition dictates. Yet, in the hall of the Apostolic Palace, when Pope Leo XIV spoke, the general impression was that it wasn't just a matter of good wishes and formalities. The new pontiff, on his first Christmas as successor of Peter, chose to speak openly about the Church's identity, its conflicts, and above all, about that word that seems to recur like a refrain: rigidity, a term that resonates for many as a warning, for others as a program, for still others as a wake-up call. The Pope's style appeared affable and fluent, but the content is destined to be debated for months. Speaking to the heads of the Roman Curia's dicasteries, Leo XIV first wanted to pay homage to the previous pontiff. To my beloved predecessor Pope Francis, his prophetic voice, his pastoral style, his rich teaching have marked the path of the Church in recent years. Clear words, no nuances, a comprehensive eulogy which places the new Pope in a precise line, that of the hermeneutic of continuity with Francis. According to some Vatican observers, this choice is no coincidence. In a still divided ecclesial climate, emphatically remembering one's predecessor reassures a segment of the Church that fears rifts and changes in direction. At the same time, for others, this central quote from Pope Francis might raise a question: will this pontificate be truly new, or will we have a continuation? Leo XIV recalled the heart of his predecessor's message. Francis encouraged to place God's mercy at the center, to give renewed impetus to evangelization, and to be a joyful church that welcomes everyone and is attentive to the poorest. It's interesting to note the weight of the words welcomes all. It's the formula that, from the synodal reform to the moral debates, has pervaded the Church for over a decade. Part of the Catholic world sees this choice as a breath of fresh air. Another fears that this total acceptance could lead to doctrinal confusion. The discussion then took a deeper turn when Leo XIV spoke about the internal dynamics of the Church. He warned that forces of division may be at work. A sentence that, taken out of context, might seem like an abstract denunciation. In reality, it's a precise warning. The Pope explained the risk of falling between two opposite extremes: a uniformity that does not value differences, or, on the other hand, the exasperation of different points of view instead of seeking communion. These statements don't go unnoticed. For years, the Vatican has been experiencing tensions between doctrinal, liturgical, and moral sensitivities. These tensions are sometimes subtle, sometimes overt. Some see the Pope's words as an outstretched hand toward those who fear the dissolution of doctrine. Others, however, observe that speaking of an exacerbation of differences is a clear reference to more traditional currents. In both cases, the pontiff seems to outline the profile of a church that wants to unite without erasing and distinguish without dividing. At the heart of the speech, however, was a message destined to spark theological debate. Leo XIV wishes to build the communion of Christ in a synodal church. It's a phrase that sounds familiar and at the same time problematic to the ears of the traditional Catholic world. The word synodal has become, for some, the promise of a deeper listening to the people of God. For others, however, it is a term that risks transforming the hierarchy into an assembly and the apostolic ministry into an ecclesial democracy. The Pope was then even more direct. When it comes to faith, liturgy, morality, or other issues, one risks falling victim to rigidity or ideology. This sentence, taken literally, is unequivocal, but it raises a central issue. Where does fidelity end and rigidity begin? Who draws the line between doctrinal fidelity and ideology? It's a question that many theologians have forcefully raised in recent years. The Catholic martyrology is full of men and women accused of rigidity by their opponents and proclaimed saints by the Church in subsequent centuries. A segment of traditionalist opinion fears that the term rigidity will end up becoming an easy label, applicable to anyone who defends Catholic moral doctrine, the ontological value of the priesthood, or the traditional liturgy. A segment of progressive opinion, however, interprets the Pope's words as a liberation from the burden of form, an opening to a more fluid experience of faith. The question remains, how much will this concept impact the governance of the Church? Leo XIV then offered a definition of his own role that marks a precise identity choice. He does not see himself as a gardener who cultivates his own garden, but rather as someone called by Christ to be a leaven of universal brotherhood between peoples, religions, and cultures. It's a phrase with far-reaching implications. Universal brotherhood as a papal mission. For some, it's a lofty and spiritual intuition. For others, it's a danger of syncretism. The theme deserves sober reflection. The Pope, as a promoter of universal brotherhood, implies an extension of the mission beyond the visible boundaries of the Church. It's a vision already familiar in modern social doctrine, but it will once again raise questions. How will the emphasis on universal brotherhood be reconciled with the salvific unity of Christ and the Catholic Church? It will be a difficult balance, but it will be at the heart of the Pontificate. Toward the conclusion of his speech, Leo XIV cited the Second Vatican Council, stating that it fixed its gaze on Christ, strengthened the Church, and projected it toward the world. The sentence is clear and unequivocal, and yet this very statement will open a new interpretative front. The Pope considers the Second Vatican Council a still active engine of projection toward the world, not an event to be archived in the past. For many faithful tied to tradition, this statement will resonate as a call to a specific ecclesial direction, the confirmation of post-conciliar orientations. For others, it will be a signal that nothing will be reformulated in a restorative sense. The question that remains is whether the Council, 60 years later, is still the center of gravity of ecclesial life, or whether the Catholic world today requires further reflection on contemporary wounds. It's clear that the Pope's Christmas address wasn't just a courtesy call, it was a program for his pontificate, universal brotherhood, continuity with Francis, rejection of internal divisions, and attention to a synodal church. But this program will have to deal with the reality of an ecclesial community globally wounded by abuse, vocational crises, liturgical differences, and moral polarizations. Many are wondering, will the invitation to avoid rigidity be read as an opening to doctrinal flexibility? Or will it be an internal moral call aimed at curial discipline? Leo XIV doesn't specify, yet within the Vatican, his words have echoed loudly: rigidity will not be tolerated, Now we all await with hope the January consistory. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, Amen. God bless you.